Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be another combo HLO guy stuff video. This is an Asian hot and sour fish soup or fisherman soup because we're going to do a little kind of twist on it here. It's healthy by nature, but I don't really have to do anything to make this a healthy recipe. This is just a really crisp, refreshing, easy to make recipe. This is a great lunch, great dinner, reheats extremely well, and you could freeze it if you really wanted to. The base is just water. We're not even going to use broth. We just have a little bit of prep to do. For the most part, this is just a put it together and cook it kind of recipe. It is important to use fresh ingredients for this, but they're easy to find and they're really inexpensive. I'm doing this entire thing. It's going to make about 2 gallons for under 50 bucks. So obviously you can cut this down halves or quarters if you're doing a smaller batch. We're just going to use a little splash of vegetable oil, basically for sauteing the green onions here, and I've got 4 bunches of those, scallions, green onions. I've got some fresh ginger. You can use the ginger paste you find in the store, but it's really not healthy for you. It's got a lot of crap in it. And I didn't know better. I've used it before, and I got the tube and because I couldn't get any ginger that day. And I looked on the back, I'm like, oh my god, like 1 little teaspoon of it was just horrible, especially for sodium. So just use fresh ginger. This stuff is dirt cheap. All you have to use is a little grater. You just peel this, grate off. We're going to use a couple teaspoons, a couple tablespoons of it, and that's it. I mean, it's super easy. This was like $1. You know, can't go wrong. I'm going to use 1 pack of mushrooms. This is technically optional, but it adds a little dimension to the flavor and texture, and it's not going to take over the soup. This is going to reduce down by at least half. So it's just going to be a little extra in there. If you go to Chinese or Japanese restaurants and you have their typical house soups, especially miso, you're probably familiar with how the mushrooms will play a part. Not a big deal. So if you're not a huge mushroom fan, you could take them out if you really wanted to, but I'm not going overboard. They're just in there for effect. I've got a can of no salt added diced tomatoes. We don't need any extra sodium. And I've got a little bit of cornstarch, and this is going to provide our thickening rather than doing it with a roux, because I want to make this still a light body texture, but I don't want it so thin that it's actually like a water-based soup. So this is just going to thicken it up a little bit without any additional flavor like you would get from a roux. And that's a combination of typically butter and flour, or at least oil and flour. So we're just going to add a little bit of that, some fresh ground pepper, and I'm going to use my cool new birthday present here, automatic pepper grinder. Oh, really looking forward to this. I'm kind of disappointed though this isn't a recipe where I've got 20-25 cans like the last one, so I could use my electric can opener, but I'll get to that one eventually. But this is the last time I ever have to grind by hand. Goodbye. As soon as I get some more space in here, I'm just dumping these in, and this is going in the trash. Oh my god. Huge, huge time saver. Inexpensive too. It's only like 20 bucks. Really nice unit. And got a little bit of red wine vinegar. You could use balsamic or cider vinegar. Just don't use white. White isn't going to have the body of flavors that we need. This is just going to add a little bit of zing. Not a main ingredient, so it's not totally critical which one you choose. I happen to have this and some cider vinegar. I'm just going to use this up because it's handy. Got some bay scallops. I've got 2 pounds of them. You could use sea scallops, but they would cost you a heck of a lot more. I got these for $8.99 a pound, which isn't cheap, but I'm only using 2 pounds of them. I got actually almost 1 3/4. That's what happened to fit in here. If you're using the sea scallops, you just want to probably halve or quarter them into little bite-sized chunks about this size. Bay scallops, you don't have to do anything. We're just going to dump them in. And then the main course is I have 3 pounds of cod. 3.2 is what I got here. Just 3 nice big cod fillets. You could use pollock. The point is you want to use a nice, firm white fish. Alright, we're not looking for anything with a lot of fishy taste, because the flavors for this is going to come from the veggies and the base. And this is just providing the protein basically. And we're going to cut these up into little 1-inch pieces or so. And that's it. This is going to make our delicious soup. Oh, and a little bit of Splenda. It's called a hot and sour soup, and it's kind of silly because it's neither hot nor sour. But this is going to add, we're only going to use a couple tablespoons just to get the flavor base right. And that's it. And it should work fine. Normally I use sugar, but I think the Splenda in this soup, because it's not reacting with anything like yeast, so it should work just fine. That's it. First thing I have to do is cut up my scallions, and I'm going to cut the greens fairly long, couple inches, and then the white parts, probably about the last quarter or so, a little finer, and cut off the very ends. Make sure you wash these really well. Any kind of leafy vegetable, it's going to have a lot of dirt, a lot of mostly waxy crap left on, pesticides and whatnot, so wash these off very well, just like lettuce or anything like that. And then I'm going to peel and mince a little bit of the ginger. The mushrooms, I always save myself time and get them pre-washed, so these are just ready to dump in. One less thing to do. And then we'll just build the soup. Let's go. Okay, prep is done. I've got my scallions cut up, and I did the greens in about 1.5 to 2-inch long sections, with the whites, the last 25% or so, in little 1/4 to 1/2-inch chunks. I minced the ginger root. This is the entire ginger root that you saw, so this is about what you get out of it. Just a few tablespoons. And I've got my fish all cut up into nice 1-inch or so cubes. Now we can go ahead and start sauteing our scallion whites. We're pretty much going to do this whole thing over medium to medium-low heat. There's nothing we need to sear. And when we do these scallions, we're just going to soften them up a bit. We don't need to really sweat them. Not looking to caramelize them or brown them or anything like that. Just want to get them a little soft because they're pretty crunchy right off the stalk. So we'll let this oil heat up a bit here. Get those in. These are gonna cook for 3-4 minutes tops. Oh, and I forgot an ingredient. We are going to use a little bit of low sodium soy sauce, so I got to get that out of the fridge. Anyway, let's put these guys in. And we'll let them sit and saute. Okay, now we're going to put in our ginger. Just stir this around for a couple minutes. Now we're going to put in about 25 cups of water. And we're going to add about 5 tablespoons of the low sodium soy sauce. And we need to heat this up. This is not going to come to a boil, but we do want it at a very hot simmer. So keep stirring it. Shouldn't be anything really in danger of burning, but we do have bits of onion in there and just don't want anything sticking to the bottom. You can do this over medium-high heat. Should take, 10 minutes at the most. I'm going to just stir it occasionally. Okay, we're coming up to temp. Now I'm going to add just a big tablespoon worth of the Splenda. Good pinch or so. Ooh, too much. There we go. Again, not a big part of it, but a little layer of flavor. Ah, hand was wet. Okay, hold on, gotta rinse my hand out. I'm still amazed at how powdery that Splenda is. I mean, you can't feel it in the bag. That's why it surprised me when it came out. I couldn't tell it was flowing. Now we're going to do a little bit of salt, just a couple tablespoons worth. Again, I like to keep things light in the pot, and if people want more in the bowl, which usually they don't, I get it pretty neutral right in the pot, then you can do so in the bowl if you wish. So just a little bit. That is nothing to complain about for 2 gallons worth of soup. And again, there's no sodium in the ingredients, so you do need to add some or it's going to be really bland. And then I'm going to do about 3 tablespoons worth of black pepper. Now we can go ahead and put in the mushrooms. This is why it pays to buy the pre-washed kind, which is pretty common these days. No prep needed. Big time saver. Alright, now I'm just going to cover this and bring the heat down to medium-low. We're just going to let this hang out for a good 10-15 minutes. Let these mushrooms cook, let all these flavors come together, let the broth soak in. We're almost done. What we want to do is mix our cornstarch, it's about a ½ cup worth, with a cup of cold water. Just stir it into solution. And then we're going to stir it into the soup. We're going to turn our heat back up to medium-high and bring this to a boil. It's probably going to take about 10 minutes. You do want to stir it occasionally while this comes up to temp. We're just at a boil here, so in go the tomatoes. This is about half a can, and I did drain and rinse them. And then in go our greens. And in goes the fish. This will cook for about 5 minutes. Bring your heat back to about a medium-low. All you need to do is make sure the fish has gone opaque and you know it's cooked. We are now fully cooked. Beautiful looking fish there. Now we're going to stir in our vinegar, and we're just doing 8 tablespoons worth here. This is what gives that little sour flair to it. And put in our scallions. Now all we have to do is simmer again for a few minutes, get the scallions cooked, and it's ready to serve. Alright, let's give it a taste test. Get some yummy fish in there, some greens, some mushrooms. Awesome broth. Gotta get some scallions too. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. It smells really good. Let's try a scallion, or a scallop. Very crisp, light, fresh. Delicious. It's got a ton of texture. Let's try the fish. Perfect, just moist and flaky. Alright, well that worked out really well. I think it could use a tiny bit more salt, but like I said, I will leave that up to each individual person. I would probably just do a tiny little pinch on each bowl and it would be perfect. So there you go. There's a really easy, healthy, and delicious Asian hot and sour seafood fisherman soup. See you guys next time.